Hello and welcome back to the Watford Way. Today, as I'm here to discuss all things Luton Town versus Watford at Kenilworth Road. But first, before we get into the video, and before we get into a very, very tasty video indeed, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Let me know your thoughts on the game and what it means for Watford in terms of the playoff race and the race for them top 6 positions. And yeah, make sure to turn on the post notification bell as well to get notified whenever I go live or upload in the future weeks. And to start these next few weeks is a massive game for Watford against Luton Town away at Kenilworth Road. And I wasn't really sure where to start with this match preview, but I do think the most sensible place to start is probably the reverse fixture we played at Vicarage Road earlier this season. A demolition job, really, of Luton Town. Watford winning that game by 4-0. The goals coming from Keenan Davis, William Schuster-Kong, Joao Pedro and Ismaila Sarr. Some other stats for you. Watford had 13 shots to Luton's 9. Watford had 8 shots on target during the game compared to Luton's 3. We dominated possession with 60% possession. And we almost had double the amount of passes as Luton Town in the game as well. And it was a very, very comfortable day for Watford under a completely different manager to who we have now. I think it was actually one of Slaven Bilic's first games in charge of Watford. It was certainly his first home game in charge of the club. I think before that we beat Stoke City by 4-0, and then we followed that up obviously with this Luton Town victory as well. And at the time, things were feeling much more confident. The players looked much more confident. The club was on a more positive trajectory. Nathan Jones had a massive sulk after the game. I don't think any Watford fans really like Nathan Jones. However, ever since then, the season has completely turned on its head. And I have to say, fair play to Luton Town. Watford sacked Rob Edwards after just 10 games in charge, which I think a lot of people thought was unfair at the time. Don't get me wrong, the results weren't that great under him, but to sack a new young manager who you brought in to build a project at the club, to sack him after 10 games was a very, very baffling decision. And fair play to Luton Town. They picked up their rival's previous manager. And he's done fantastically well at Luton Town since. If you look at the championship table at the moment, Luton Town are sitting on 64 points in 4th position, whereas Watford, you'll find us all the way down in 10th position on 55 points. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, if Watford really want to kick on and get promoted this season, you have to be winning this game. It's a playoff rival. It's our local rivals as well. It's a local derby. And if we lose this, number one, our season will most definitely be over in regards to our playoff race. And secondly, it's going to be really, really embarrassing, not just to lose to Luton Town in itself, but to also, lose to a manager we sacked earlier this season, who our rivals then hired, who may potentially get promoted back to the Premier League. So there's a lot at stake in this game, and I'm sure the atmosphere, of course, will be very, very tasty as well on the day. In regards to how Watford fans are travelling to the ground, that was a whole issue in itself. Basically, the club are forcing fans who brought a ticket in the away end to not travel themselves, but to actually go to Vicarage Road Stadium and travel to Luton Town via designated club coaches, which I know a lot of people aren't happy about. But from my perspective, if fans are going there and they're going to feel unsafe, it's probably the safest way to travel via club coaches rather than actually going to the ground yourself. So I do understand it from that perspective. But I know a lot of Watford fans were unhappy about that, considering the fact that Luton Town, when they come to Vicarage Road, they were free to kind of roam through the town centre and cause as much chaos as they wanted. So for Watford to kind of mandate you have to travel to Luton via this one mode of transport, I do think it was a little bit bad on our part, but I also do understand why they did it as well. I want to talk a little bit about Rob Edwards as well. I mentioned, obviously, his sacking. He was sacked after 10 games at Watford. And what a fantastic job he's done at Luton Town. It's not often I praise the opposition on here, especially for a local derby as well. But I have to give Luton Town credit. I have to give Rob Edwards credit because he saw an opportunity. He probably thought, well, Watford did me a disservice at the club. What have I got to lose? I'll go to Luton, prove my worth to them. And actually, Rob Edwards may end up getting promoted with them this season under, in completely what's the word I'm looking for? Just in a crazy turn of events, really, because you look at Watford's squad, you look at Watford's financial power, the fan base, the location compared to Luton. Watford have all the capability, the assets, the financial power to be a force in the division. And we've been completely mismanaged, not just this season, but over the past few years. And this season, Luton have really capitalised on that. They brought in, what Watford thought was a young, progressive manager. He's shown that at Luton. They've given him the time. And all I have to say is fair play, Rob Edwards. When he come into Watford, he seemed like a really, really nice guy. He still seems like a really nice guy. Unfortunately, he now manages our rivals. But yeah, all I have to say is fair play to Luton. If you beat us at the weekend, it's to be expected. And I think we'll talk about how I'm expecting the game to go now as well. Because I think the game earlier this season, from my perspective anyway, I went into it expecting Watford to get absolutely demolished by Luton. And I'm sure the Luton fans who attended the match and Luton fans who are watching this video as well can kind of attest for that, really. Watford were, low on confidence at the time. We just recently changed manager after originally sacking Rob Edwards. And we didn't really have a clear identity. So I wasn't that confident going into the game. Now, don't get me wrong. We clearly have the more talented players in terms of technical ability. But at the time, I just thought Luton Town would be right up for it. It was the first derby in, what was it, 15, 16 years to be played in front of fans. And actually, from a Watford perspective, I was really happy with the win, don't get me wrong, but I was quite disappointed at how little Luton Town offered. So, from that match to now, I'm expecting a much more difficult task, at hand in this game. So yeah, in terms of my score prediction, how do I think the game's going to go? From a Watford perspective, from my heart as a Watford fan, I'm of course going to predict a Watford win. I'll go 2-1 to Watford, João Pedro with the goals. However, looking at the game from a neutral perspective and being realistic, I don't think Watford are going to win at the weekend. In fact, I think Luton Town are going to win by quite a comfortable margin. I think Watford are taking just under 1,000 fans to the ground, and I do think they will be disappointed when they come away. I'm predicting a Luton Town victory, unfortunately, and it will be a very, very embarrassing way for Watford's season to end. We've only won 4 games since Christmas, I believe. We just drew 1-1 with Wigan at Vicarage Road, who currently sit bottom of the Championship. And that game was a struggle within itself. So I'm not expecting too much more from this Watford squad. Don't get me wrong. On an individual level, Watford have very, very talented players. Ismaila Sarr, João Pedro, Keenan Davis, Imran Louza, Hamza Chowdhury. These are all players who have a lot of ability and will probably all go on to do much better things than they're currently doing at Watford. However, I think what Luton have is just the ability to play as a team and fight for each other. And Watford, at the moment, don't have the fight, don't have the desire, don't have the confidence, and aren't playing as a team. So for me, Luton Town, unfortunately, are going to come away with a victory in this game. As much as it pains me to say it, I do have to be honest here on this channel and give my honest thoughts to you guys. And yeah, as I said, from a Watford perspective, I would love to win this game and do the double over Luton this season. And we certainly are capable of beating them, as we showed earlier in the season in October when we beat them by 4-0. But to end the video, in conclusion, I do think this is unfortunately going to be a bit of a sad day for Watford, and we'll come away from Kenilworth Road probably crying and probably really concerned about what the future holds for our football club. So there we have it. That's how I'm going to end the video, on a bit more of a negative note than I probably originally anticipated. But yeah, let me know how you think the game's going to go in the comments section below. I know a lot of people struggled to get tickets because the away end at Luton is just under 1,000 fans in capacity. We probably could have sold out the whole Luton ground if we're being honest. So if you are going to the game, you're very, very lucky. I do hope you have a fantastic time. And if possible as well, I'll be doing a watch along here on the weekend on this YouTube channel for the game as well, because Watford are streaming the game via the Hive Live streaming service, which means fans who aren't attending should be able to watch from home as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm just not looking forward to it if Watford come away with a loss. But there we have it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.